Alvin York, born in Tennessee in the year 1887, life was hard in the backwoods and his family was poor. Alvin learned to hunt to provide food and he was quite good with a rifle. Church was important to him and Alvin's faith was strong. The Bible taught him, "Thou shalt not kill." He believed in peace and solving problems without violence. As Alvin grew up, he became strong and capable, but he was troubled. The world was changing, and war was coming. In 1917, the United States entered the Great War. The nation was swept up in a wave of patriotism and duty. The call to arms was loud and clear, resonating through towns and cities across the country. It was a time of great upheaval and change as young men from all walks of life prepared to leave their homes and families to fight on foreign soil. Many young men enlisted, eager to serve their country. They were filled with a sense of purpose and adventure, ready to prove their bravery and loyalty. The excitement was palpable as they boarded trains, waving goodbye to their loved ones, not knowing what lay ahead. Alvin was torn. He believed in defending his country, but he also believed in peace. The conflict within him was profound. He stood at a crossroads, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. The path of a soldier was one of honor, but it was also one of violence, something that went against his deepest convictions. Alvin's mother was worried. She knew her son's heart. She had seen the turmoil in his eyes, the sleepless nights spent in contemplation. She understood his struggle better than anyone. In their quiet home they had many serious conversations about the war and what it meant for their family. She pleaded with him, "Don't take a life, Alvin." Her voice was filled with emotion, her eyes brimming with tears. She knew the horrors of war, the loss and the pain it brought. Her words were a desperate attempt to keep her son safe, to protect his soul from the burden of killing. Her words weighed heavily on him. Alvin spent countless hours deep in thought, wrestling with his conscience. He sat alone, troubled by the decision he had to make. The love for his mother and his desire to do what was right clashed with the expectations of his community and his sense of duty. He prayed for guidance and searched for answers. In the quiet of the church, he sought solace in his faith. The Bible was his constant companion, its pages offering wisdom and comfort. He hoped for a sign, something to help him find the right path. His community urged him to enlist. They saw him as a symbol of strength and integrity, someone who could lead and inspire others. The pressure was immense, as friends and neighbors encouraged him to join the fight. They believed in his abilities and wanted him to be part of the cause. They saw him as a natural leader and a crack shot with a rifle. His skills were undeniable and many admired his marksmanship. The praise and admiration from his community only added to the internal conflict he felt. He was torn between their expectations and his own moral compass. But Alvin resisted. He couldn't reconcile killing with his faith. His conscience wouldn't allow it. The rifle in his hands felt like a betrayal of everything he believed in. He turned away from it, unable to accept the idea of taking another life, even in the name of duty. Months passed, and the war raged on. Alvin's internal struggle intensified. The world around him was engulfed in conflict, and the pressure to make a decision grew stronger with each passing day. The horrors of the battlefield were a constant reminder of the stakes involved. He felt the pull of duty, but the words of his mother and the Bible echoed in his mind. The teachings of his faith and the love of his family were powerful forces that he couldn't ignore. They guided his thoughts and actions, even as the world around him demanded something different. He was a man of deep faith. His beliefs were the foundation of his life, and he couldn't simply set them aside. The Bible provided him with strength and clarity, helping him to stay true to himself in the face of overwhelming pressure. Could he betray his beliefs? The question haunted him day and night. He looked at his reflection, searching for answers within himself. The struggle was not just about the war, but about who he was and what he stood for. Alvin knew that whatever decision he made, it would define him for the rest of his life. One Sunday, during a fiery sermon, Alvin had a revelation. It was a day like any other, but the words of the preacher struck a chord deep within him. The small country church was filled with the usual congregation, but the atmosphere was charged with an unusual intensity. The preacher spoke of a just war, defending the innocent and fighting for freedom. His voice echoed through the wooden pews, each word resonating with a sense of urgency and righteousness. Alvin listened intently, his heart pounding as the preacher's message began to sink in. Alvin realized something. Sometimes pacifism wasn't enough. He had always believed in peace and nonviolence, but the preacher's words made him question his stance. Could it be that there were times when fighting was necessary, even justifiable? He thought of the atrocities committed in Europe, the innocent lives lost, and the threat to freedom. The images of war and suffering that he had seen in newspapers and heard about in conversations now seemed more real, more immediate. The distant conflict was no longer just a faraway event, it was a pressing reality that demanded action. Could he stand by and do nothing? The question gnawed at him, challenging his beliefs and his sense of duty. He wrestled with his conscience, torn between his commitment to peace and the growing conviction that he had a responsibility to act. Could he let others fight for the values he held dear? The thought of other men, young and old, risking their lives while he remained safe at home was unbearable. He felt a deep sense of solidarity with those who were already fighting, a kinship that transcended his previous pacifist beliefs. Alvin made a decision. He would enlist. It was not a choice made lightly, but one born out of deep reflection and a newfound understanding of duty. He walked into the recruitment office with a heavy heart but a clear mind, ready to take on the mantle of a soldier. He would fight for his country and defend the helpless. The decision brought him a sense of purpose, a mission that aligned with his core values. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was prepared to face them head-on. But he would do it his way, with a heavy heart and a prayer for peace. Alvin's faith remained a guiding light, a source of strength and solace. He prayed for the courage to stay true to his principles, even in the midst of war. He told his mother, and she wept, but she understood. The conversation was filled with tears and unspoken fears, but also with a deep mutual respect. She knew the weight of his decision and the courage it took to make it. She knew her son was a man of principle, a man who followed his conscience, even when it led him to war. Their embrace was a silent promise, a testament to the strength of their bond and the values they both held dear. Alvin York was ready to face the unknown, carrying with him the love and support of his family. Army life was tough. Training was rigorous, but Alvin excelled. His marksmanship was unmatched, and he was a natural leader, respected by his fellow soldiers. He shipped out to Europe and joined the 82nd Infantry Division. The reality of war hit him hard. The trenches were a nightmare, mud, blood and death. His faith was tested. Alvin saw his friends die, cut down by enemy fire, and he witnessed the horrors of war firsthand. But he never lost sight of his values. He fought with courage, but also with compassion. Section 5. A reluctant hero emerges. The Battle of Argonne Forest. October 8, 1918. The Argonne Forest. One of the deadliest battles of the war. Alvin's unit was pinned down. Enemy machine guns rained fire. Casualties were heavy. Their mission: take out the machine guns, a near-suicide mission. 17 men volunteered, led by Sergeant Alvin York. They crept through the thick undergrowth. They came under heavy fire. Many of Alvin's men were killed. He found himself facing incredible odds. Alone, against a German machine gun nest. His moment of truth had arrived. Section 6. Beyond the Call of Duty. York's Extraordinary Valor. Alvin's training took over. He was calm, focused. He picked off the German soldiers one by one. His rifle, an extension of his will. The remaining Germans charged. Alvin drew his pistol. He fought back with incredible bravery, taking down enemy soldiers at close range. He was a one-man army. He captured the machine gun nest. Then, something remarkable happened. He convinced over 130 German soldiers to surrender. He marched them back to American lines. A single soldier and his prisoners of war. Section 7. A nation's gratitude, honors and recognition. News of Alvin's heroism spread. He became a national hero. Awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty. He returned home a changed man, haunted by the memories of war but proud of his service. He had faced his fears, upheld his values, and saved lives. He was a reluctant hero, thrust into the spotlight, but he never sought fame. He remained humble, a simple man from Tennessee who had answered his country's call. Section 8. Life after war, finding peace and purpose. Alvin returned to Tennessee, married his sweetheart, and started a family. But the war never truly left him. He suffered from nightmares. The echoes of battle still rang in his ears. He dedicated his life to education, established the York Agricultural Institute, a school for underprivileged children. He wanted to give back, create a better future. He spoke out against war, advocated for peace. He had seen the horrors firsthand. He knew the true cost of conflict. He believed in diplomacy, understanding, and compassion. Section 9. The Enduring Legacy, a Symbol of Courage and Conviction. Alvin York died in 1964, a true American hero. Born in 1887 in rural Tennessee, York's early life was marked by hardship and struggle. He was a man of humble beginnings, working as a blacksmith and farmer before being drafted into the army during World War I. Despite his initial resistance to fighting due to his religious beliefs, York's bravery on the battlefield became legendary. He left behind a legacy of courage, conviction, and unwavering faith. York's actions during the Meuse-Argonne offensive in 1918 earned him the Medal of Honor. He single-handedly captured 132 German soldiers, an act of valor that cemented his place in history. His story is not just one of military prowess, but of a man who stood by his principles and faith. His story continues to inspire generations. From history books to films, Alvin York's life has been a beacon of inspiration. Schools and institutions across the country teach about his bravery and moral fortitude, ensuring that his legacy lives on. His life reminds us that true heroism is not just about acts of bravery but also about standing firm in one's beliefs. York's journey reminds us that heroism comes in many forms. It is not confined to the battlefield. It can be found in everyday acts of kindness, in standing up for what is right, and in helping those in need. York's life is a testament to the fact that anyone, regardless of their background, can make a significant impact, that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things. York's transformation from a pacifist to a war hero shows that even the most unlikely individuals can rise to the occasion when called upon. His story encourages us to believe in our potential to make a difference, no matter how insurmountable the odds may seem, that even in the darkest of times, hope and humanity can prevail. York's life during and after the war exemplifies this. He returned home to Tennessee and dedicated himself to improving his community, establishing schools and promoting education. His post-war efforts were driven by the same principles that guided him on the battlefield: compassion, service, and a deep sense of duty. He showed us that it's okay to question, to struggle with our beliefs. York's initial resistance to fighting due to his religious convictions highlights the internal conflicts many face. His journey teaches us that questioning and struggling with our beliefs is a part of the human experience. It is through this struggle that we find our true convictions and the strength to act upon them. But when the time comes to act, we must do so with courage and compassion. York's actions during the war were driven by a deep sense of responsibility and empathy for his fellow soldiers. His bravery was not just about defeating the enemy, but about protecting and saving lives. This is the essence of true heroism. That's the true measure of a hero. It's not just about the medals and accolades, but about the impact one has on the lives of others. York's life is a powerful reminder that heroism is defined by our actions and the legacy we leave behind. That's the legacy of Alvin York, a legacy of courage, conviction, and unwavering faith. A legacy that continues to inspire and guide us, reminding us of the power of one individual's actions to change the world.